WWT presents Partner Spotlight.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another Partner Spotlight brought to you by WWT Presents. My name is Chris Conrad. I'm the Area Vice President of Global Cyber here at WWT, and I got to tell you, I'm absolutely thrilled today to be joined by an amazing panel of guests, all from F5, one of WWT's most strategic partners. We have Kara Sprague, Executive Vice President and Chief Product Officer, and Kevin Hollenbach, Senior Vice President of Sales for North America. I have to start by saying this, I've been in the cyber now a really long time, 25 years, and candidly, I've never seen the industry right now as volatile and as disruptive as it is currently today. And as we all know, the global business and threat landscape just really continues to evolve. All enterprises, no matter what sector that they're in, are really grappling with the challenge of providing secure access to applications for users across diverse devices and networks, all while trying to tackle the complexity of a multi-cloud approach. Now, F5 may not be the first company that you think of when it comes to cybersecurity or securing the cloud, but F5's just really increasingly comprehensive security portfolio is anchored by its distributed cloud platform. It's quickly emerging as a key enabler to tackling all the challenges we just talked about. And candidly, I think it just aligns perfectly with the evolving needs of all of our global enterprise clients. So Kara, Kevin, thanks so much for taking the time to join us today.
Great to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Thanks, Kevin. Much appreciated. So maybe just jump right into it, and maybe we'll start with you, Kara, first. We got a lot to talk about today, but let's start with what you're seeing in today's cloud landscape and the complexity it's creating for organizations of all kinds, and then maybe give us an update on F5's security strategy specifically, and maybe how it's evolved over the years to address these challenges we just talked about of today's multi-cloud environments.
Sure, and thank you, Chris. Really appreciate the opportunity to join you and the team for today's session. And I just want to open with a huge thank you to WWT. You guys have just been tremendous partners to F5 and very excited to be serving the customers that we serve together. So the question you asked was, how is the customer landscape changing and evolving? And we have actually seen a significant change in customer perception over just the last 24 months. So I'll put this in perspective. I joined F5 about 6 years ago. And when I joined F5 6 years ago, what we were hearing uniformly from customers, market analysts, et cetera, was, wow, F5 is an interesting choice because everything is moving to public cloud and doesn't seem to have really much of a play in public cloud. At that point, F5 was a company that 90% of our business was perpetual hardware. And it wasn't, totally incorrect for them to think of us as a data center dinosaur. Now, what's happened and what we've seen in the last 24 months or so is customer perceptions have changed dramatically. Over the course of the last 5 years, they've adopted a number of public clouds. Many customers have made really positive traction on moving apps out of their data center and into new locations. But what happened that they didn't quite expect is that they moved them to a bunch of new locations. So when we look at our research, what we find is 85% of customers, and we surveyed globally, this is hundreds of customers, these are large enterprises, 85% of these respondents are putting their apps and APIs in multiple places, spanning on-prem environments, multiple public clouds, as well as edge environments. And in fact, 1 in 5 of our respondents are actually putting their apps and APIs in up to 6 different infrastructure environments. And so that's the news and the new thing that is changing perceptions over the last couple of years is that customers, whether on purpose or not, have inevitably found themselves in this hybrid and multi-cloud state. And now they have a whole bunch of pain points that they have to deal with within that new state because they have a lot of benefits. And we're not finding a lot of customers that are really eager to try and rationalize and consolidate those environments down to fewer. So what are some of the problems that they have? Well, they are trying to minimize their cybersecurity risk. And you opened aptly with a focus on security, which is, you can see the sophistication of cyber attacks is only increasing. AI is only going to accelerate the sophistication of the tool sets that threat actors have. And the distributed environments that we now live in are really, really expanding the threat surface area. So minimizing cyber risk exposure is a big, big priority for customers. A second one is around ensuring the performance and resilience of their applications and APIs. That is very hard to do across these distributed environments, especially with limited visibility into them. Our customers also talk about challenges in delivering new innovation to market with speed. And so how do you ensure that you're shifting a bunch of things left so you have your developers more integrated into the cycle? And then the last big pain point that we hear, especially pronounced by these multi-cloud environments, is the complexity and cost. And so a lot of customers have found themselves in a position of supporting an operational and policy footprint within one environment that is different from all of the other ones. And so again, if you think of 1 in 5 respondents to our survey are operating apps in up to 6 different infrastructure environments, imagine the complexity and cost that you have when you're duplicating the security expertise, the policy, the operational processes in 6 different infrastructure environments. It's untenable. And so that's the environment that we find ourselves in. Now let me pivot a bit to how F5 has evolved to meet this need that customers have. You're absolutely right. We are not your grandfather's F5 anymore. While our company is about 25 years old, we have dramatically changed our portfolio in just the last 5 years. So we've acquired a number of companies up to $2 billion or more than $2 billion in strategic acquisition that has expanded our footprint into modern container native applications to complement the foothold that we have already in serving traditional applications. And in addition, as you spoke, we have a SaaS and managed service platform that we call F5 Distributed Cloud Services. That is a combination of a number of acquisitions that we brought together, including Shape Security with world-class AI-driven traffic profiling and bot detection, as well as Volterra, which brings a edge capability where we run our own points of presence. We also have our own global traffic or global network that we run, as well as other acquisitions such as ThreatStack and Lilac Cloud. And what we now have is the only portfolio in the world. We are the only vendor that can secure, deliver, and optimize any app, any API, anywhere. Let me pause there and see if Kevin wanted to add anything on the customer context.
Yeah, thanks, Kara. And Chris, I want to echo everything Kara said about the partnership and appreciate having us today. You know, being out with customers, I'll echo everything that you're seeing and Kara, that you talked about as far as the pressures on our customer environments. And probably the most overused word out there is digital transformation. And how that lands is it really means speed to deployment of apps. And so you have this conflicting challenge of speed to deployment of apps, but deploying them securely, rapidly, and with high availability and resiliency. And it's really to echo what Kara was saying, like 6 or 7 years ago, I was out in the field and customers were telling me, hey, we love F5, but we don't see a path for you because we're going to have everything in the cloud inside another 24 months. So 6 years later, the data centers are still there. A lot of the legacy and monolithic applications are still running behind our traditional environments, which Kara will go through the roadmap there. So everything is hybrid, and no one's questioning that anymore. And it's funny how history repeats itself, because I remember when the mainframe was supposed to be dead 20 years ago. And the only thing that's changed in the mainframe market is there's only one vendor selling mainframes anymore, and that's IBM. And it'd create a lot of complexity with the mainframe still being there and all of the virtual servers and microservices. And so now you have compute everywhere. And what I hear number one from customers is complexity, more complexity than ever, because they didn't get double the staffs to deal with these multiple environments. And the complexity comes from the cloud sprawl. You have data centers, you have colos, you have public cloud, you have edge. So apps are everywhere, but the customers did not get additional resources to deal with this. So the number one thing I think we need to do together is solve for that complexity. And that's something that Kara's team is working really hard on with distributed cloud. And of course, so the other thing I hear from customers all the time, Kara, is interest in AI. So I don't know if you want to talk any more about what we're doing with AI, but you are the one executive of the company who's been all over AI and what it means for F5 and what you're seeing out there. And I know that's come up quite a bit in customer conversations.
Kevin, yeah, when you talk about AI, I think it's every single week, every single day, we're in conversations talking about AI security. And And Jen Easterly, who is the director of the Cybersecurity Infrastructure Security Agency, CISA, she made a comment back in the spring talking about AI, how it could be the most powerful capability of our time, but also probably one of the biggest weapons of our time. So, Kara, I'd like to maybe get you to chime in a little bit more about where you're seeing AI take off, just not only from an adversarial standpoint, but just also how organizations are using it to defend themselves, and F5's position in that.
Yeah, and it is something that everybody should be thinking deeply about, right? I mean, we were dealing with before this dawn of AI in the recent 12 months. We were already dealing with rampant automation and bots. We were dealing with rampant ransomware attacks, and also, just a number of data breaches. And so that was already a scary environment for operators to be working in. And with AI, what you see is, we're getting very far advanced in terms of automating entire attack chains. And it's making that automation available now to a much broader group of people. Like, you could literally go to ChatGPT and convince it into writing an entire attack for you that could very effectively breach a quite large organization. And yes, there are some guardrails on these systems, but I think we're all still learning the limits of many of those guardrails. And so AI is a real game changer, and it's a real game changer in the adversarial world. The stat I would like to point to is the total amount of value in cybercrime today it's estimated at 8 trillion in 2023. That is larger than every other global economy, with the exception of the United States and China. And so just to put some dimension around how big a deal and how profitable this can be for cyber criminals. Now, what can we do to combat this threat? Well, we have to use these tools ourselves, right? And so one thing I'd share is, if you look at the global talent in cybersecurity, we are short by about 3.5 million cybersecurity professionals. And that should make it clear to everybody that what it has to solve this problem is, we have to make cybersecurity much more accessible and much more ridiculously easy for organizations to implement and use. And I think AI can be a big unlock for us in that. And so that'll come in the form of co-pilots, which help us interrogate systems and interrogate data much more effectively. It will come in the form of increasing analytics and automation on top of the data sets that we see. When I talk to a lot of customers, they might have, up to 5 different observability platforms implemented in their environments, everything from EKS to Splunk to Datadog. And yet they still feel like they're getting drowned in alerts and event information without having any actionable insight. And with the kind of capabilities that we're now seeing emerge around pattern recognition in some of these large language models, as well as other types of reinforcement learning, there's a real potential here for us to reduce false positives in these events and alerts, and really start getting to much more actionable information for security operators. So I'm really, really excited about the potential, but we're all going to have to be very fast in implementing it, and implementing it in a responsible way, such that we protect our data and our critical information, while also being conscious of the fact that the adversaries are moving probably in a more quick and directed way than we are.
Kara, just to come to that comment you just made, just around the number of tools organizations have, whether it's 5 observability products or others, there is a lot coming at every CIO and CISO today, just trying to rationalize the number of security platforms that they have. A few minutes ago, we talked about how F5 has made some very strategic and game-changing acquisitions the last few years. How are these acquisitions being integrated into the F5 portfolio? And maybe we can spend a few minutes just talking about what does it mean for our customers.
Yeah, sure. And I always want to start with what we've been doing over the last 5 years is putting together a portfolio such that we can secure, deliver, and optimize any app, any API, anywhere. Now, why is this valuable to customers? This is valuable to customers because of exactly the problems we've been talking about, which is, in this hybrid and multi-cloud world, they are drowning in complexity. And there's too much operational cost associated with specialization in each of these infrastructure environments. And so the idea is that with a abstraction layer that goes across infrastructure environments, that enables them to operationalize policy, and particularly security policy, That is a mechanism for customers to dramatically reduce the complexity of their operating environment, bring down their cost, reduce the amount of specialization and skill sets that they need, while also raising the bar and overall security efficacy. And so let me talk about how our acquisitions fit into that. So I will start with what we had in F5, which was big IP. That remains our bread and butter in the organization. It's still the vast majority of our product business. And the big IP today has dramatically transformed. It is a multi-cloud capability itself, and it can be deployed in public cloud environments. It can be deployed as packaged software. And it is a stalwart for protecting traditional applications. And that is where we have a number of industry awards and recognition for our big IP advanced web application firewall, in addition to other security capabilities. The next product family that we have in our portfolio is NGINX. NGINX came out of an acquisition in 2019, aptly called NGINX. And NGINX is a proxy capability for modern applications. So it has a very small footprint, a footprint of about 2 megs, relative to big IP's footprint of more than a gigabyte. And NGINX is ideally suited for deployment in microservices and container native environments. And what we've done as part of our strategy is taken the security expertise that we have in big IP and ported that onto the NGINX data plane. So that now in NGINX, there's something called NGINX Act Protect, and customers can apply industry best class web application firewall capability and policy management on top of their NGINX deployments using this. And the policies are actually very transportable between big IP and NGINX for customers that want to have policy consistency between those environments. Now, the third part of our portfolio is called F5 Distributed Cloud Services. And that is a SaaS and managed services capability. It serves any application or API, be it a legacy or modern application, but it does so in a SaaS and a managed service type of model. And so that is comprised of the capabilities that we got from Shape Security with anti-bot, the capabilities we got from Volterra in terms of the platform, the capabilities from ThreatStack, and the key use cases that we are addressing with distributed cloud are twofold today. So one is a web application and API protection offering. That is a combination of the F5 signature-based WAF. It's the same WAF that we run in big IP, the same WAF from NGINX App Protect. We've got an API security capability, which is very, very strong, though it's only 18 months old. We have, it's one of the top solutions in the market today. We have an anti-bot solution capability that comes from the Shape acquisition. And again, that is one of the leading solutions in terms of capturing the most sophisticated automation attacks. And we've got a DDoS capability that's part of that WAP portfolio. And then the second use case that we address with our security and distributed cloud offerings are called secure multi-cloud networking. And that is a layer 3 through layer 7 offering that stitches together these distributed environments to really abstract away the complexity. So as an operator, a NetOps team trying to provide consistent networking services and application security across a distributed environment, on-prem, multiple public clouds, edge, that is what the secure multi-cloud networking solution offers to customers. That is differentiated from a number of other capabilities in the market in a number of ways. We are the only organization or vendor that offers that up to layer 7. And so we layer in our security stack on top of that multi-cloud networking. And secondly, we offer that as a SaaS model as opposed to packaged software. So that's the portfolio.
Thanks, Kara. No, much appreciated. I'd like to maybe pull Kevin back into it, and just, Kevin, maybe you can just spend a couple minutes just talking about how is this resonating with our field customers today?
Yeah, thanks, Chris. And we talked earlier about complexity. And one of the things that Kara and her team are doing with this distributed cloud platform is solving for complexity. We've coined this phrase, make it ridiculously easy to deploy secure apps fast. That's kind of the North Star. Easy to say, not so easy to do. And we're not all the way there yet, but we are tracking towards that. And we actually have quite a few components already in the product that are landing well. And I'll give a few examples. Kara talked about these hybrid environments and the complexity on the layer 3 through 7 networking capabilities. And what happens, and I'll be very technical, you get gnarly traffic problems when you have data centers, colos, and cloud, and you're trying to migrate traffic across the applications. In one public cloud, as an example, if you have an app in one region and another app in a second region, you may be hairpinning traffic in and out of the same public cloud. Tunneling has become popular again, where you're tunneling traffic from a data center to a colo to a public cloud. This has been such a challenge that there are many startups now just solving this problem of multi-cloud networking. MCN solutions are built in to distributed cloud. The founders of the company Volterra were networking background, so they have solved this with an abstraction layer, which has really resonated with customers. So it avoids another point solution to solve a problem. Another example, and Kara has coined this phrase, the API is now the app when we talk about microservices. Well, that's great, but it's opened up an entire new attack vector. And so we have many customers that don't know where their APIs are. They need to see where they are. They need to protect them. And there are multiple startups that are now in the market space just solving for API discovery and security. That is built into distributed cloud. It's just part of the abstraction layer that we can not only do discovery and security, but we can do it both on-prem, colo, edge, cloud. The third thing we're doing is that WAF capability that Kara talked about, that we were very popular market leader in on-prem environment for layer 7 firewalling. We've brought that ability across the environments with distributed cloud. We call it one WAF. So customers don't have to have a team that understands a public cloud WAF capability, another public cloud WAF capability, and then their own on-prem capability. So we can solve the operational complexity of having one WAF, which think of it as one policy, many execution points. So policy one time, deploy anywhere. And that's really resonating with our customers. So we're finding, those are the use cases that stick. And we usually start with one and then the platform grows. But the key in all of this, and working with your company, Chris, with WWT, is this takes collaboration across the legacy environments with both infrastructure, SecOps and DevOps working together inside our environments to see the real value of solutions like this. And that's where together, I think we can really help our customers solve that complexity.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, security is embedded in everything that we do, and all of our customers have just across security, whether it's in networking, whether it's in databases or in applications. So yeah, we have to do this better together. You brought up a point around APIs, and maybe Kara, I want to bring you into this. Is just how has the rise of microservices and API heavy distributed applications added complexity and created more security vulnerabilities? I'd like your comments on that.
Yeah, it's, intuitively, basically, it's expanding the threat surface area, right? You've got smaller components that are now sitting in more places, and that just fundamentally is harder to protect. There are a bunch of other things in API security that set it aside from, you can't just apply a web app firewall to protect your APIs. You have to think about the overall structure of the API, what the different parameters are going into the API. And there's a number of different attack vectors. That's why the OWASP organization has defined a separate API security top 10 from a web app top 10. And so that's an important element. I would say another thing is, because they are small and because they are distributed in a bunch of places, there's a real discoverability challenge. And so Kevin talked about that. And one of the really cool things about our distributed cloud platform, it will discover those APIs that are in use. It'll look and sniff them out through your network traffic. And we have discovery and enforcement all bundled into one solution. It's a full end-to-end API security capability. I just want to circle back because it's related to the AI conversation we were having a few minutes ago. AI introduces yet another class of threats. And so, much like there's an OWASP top 10 for APIs, there's also an OWASP top 10 for large language models. There's also an OWASP top 10 for machine learning, which F5 is actually co-leading that research for the organization. And I think it's just important that people be aware that the attack vectors for each of these different kinds of apps all look different. And so you need the appropriate technologies that can solve for them. And to Kevin's point, it doesn't make sense for organizations to continue deploying, hundreds of different point security solutions. you have to look for a more holistic solve to this problem, because we're not going to be able to find the talent that can run all of these individual capabilities.
Yeah, Karen, I just read earlier this week that there's a relatively new MITRE security framework that's called Atlas, which is the adversarial threat landscape for AI systems. So I love how the industry is now rallying around all these different capabilities and different frameworks that organizations can adhere to, which is fantastic. Hey, Kevin, I'm going to bring you back because you started talking about multi-cloud environments, and just curious here, how does F5's distributed cloud app connect enhance application management across different cloud environments today? What's your thoughts on that?
Well, the thing you see with these environments, and the reason they're so complex, is every one is a snowflake. So when I talk to customers, you've got customers deploying data center and AWS as an example, data center, Colo, Edge, and Oracle and Google. It's just not one is the same. And the only way to solve that is an architectural approach. And I spoke earlier about, us working with Worldwide. One of the things we really have a strong bench in our solution architects that understand this hybrid world. And so there's not one answer to your question. It's basically, we need to get together with customers, understand their architecture, do some whiteboarding, and then figure out what is the right approach. The nice thing about distributed cloud is we have a lot of ways we can solve the network complexity. It just really depends on the particular environment that customer's deploying their apps across. And then we can kind of look at the solution that makes the most sense using distributed cloud MCN inherent capabilities. But there's no one size fits all in this world. But one of the things that I think is really strong between our two companies is that bench of architectural strength coupled with your ACT or your ATC. So for those not familiar with that, that's an ability to then take those theories and actually put them to a lab test and validate them before you actually deploy. So it's a nice 1-2 punch that solves the MCN, but also the other use cases that we talked about today.
The distributed cloud customer edge software, I mean, I look at that. I know that's a testament to F5's commitment to multi-cloud networking, application delivery, security. Kara, I'd like to get your comments on that and how it's just a game-changing platform and architecture for our customers.
Yeah, and Chris, thanks for asking that question. I think it's a really important point for folks to understand. When we talk about our distributed cloud platform, so our platform for SaaS and managed services, it's very different from what we have described as kind of prior generations of Edge or CDN offerings. And the key difference here, yes, F5 runs our own points of presence. We do run our own network, and we have our own pipes in the ground. But in addition to that, our platform here can be deployed in what we call a customer or cloud edge scenario, where customers can extend it into their own on-prem environment. They can extend it into a public cloud. And that actually unlocks a lot of flexibility and capability, which we think is ideally suited for this new multi-cloud and hybrid cloud world that we're living in. Specifically, it gives you a lot of capability to say, I want my application security and delivery running right next to where my application is, whether the application is in an on-prem environment or sitting in a public cloud. It also gives you the ability to put traffic and determine the path of the traffic through these different environments. And so where it makes sense, you can deploy your application security and even your applications into our points of presence. But where that doesn't make sense, there's a lot of flexibility to use your existing on-prem environments as well as your public cloud deployments to make sure that you're reducing latency for your end users, you're improving the proximity of your application security and delivery capabilities next to where the actual application logic is hosted or where the data is hosted. And we see that as a fundamental game changer in this world of edge deployments.
Yeah, I think, Kara, I could probably talk to you all day long about the subject today. And Kevin, you've been great. I just maybe before we wrap things up here, just Kevin, maybe ask you just your closing comments and maybe just advice to all of our customers today.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. I guess my advice would be, I know many customers are facing this complexity and it's hard to solve because it spans individual silos in the environment. And I would just say, reach out to WWT and F5 and bring us your challenges in this hybrid world and let us take a look at what we can do. We have history of doing that. Back in the days when it was just big IP, the big IP was a programmable proxy, and it solved a lot of application issues in the data center. And we used to solve it with the proxy capability and with iRules. And we used to say, bring us your tough application delivery challenges and let us take a look. And we become the market leader there. I think with distributed cloud, we have a similar capability, but for a much larger problem, which is this hybrid world. So, I think together, if customers, it's no longer about selling a product or a point product. It's about solving, significant issues that are causing pain. And that's what this hybrid world is great, because we can deliver apps fast, but we haven't built the teams and the staff inside these customer environments to manage the complexity. So I would say, bring us your challenges and let's see what we can do together, because I think we've got some unique set of solutions we can offer.
Yeah, that was awesome. Kara, maybe just a quick closing comment from you.
Yeah, I just want to echo Kevin's comments and say, huge thanks to the WWT team. It's just a phenomenal partnership, and together we have, a history of solving the world's most complex app delivery and security problems, and we look forward to continuing that journey together.
Yeah, thank you, Kara. Much appreciated. Again, on behalf of Worldwide Technology and all of our clients for taking this time to be with us and for being such a great longtime partner of Worldwide. And thank you to all of our viewers for tuning in on WWT.com. And if you'd like to learn more about WWT and the F5 partnership, please visit the partners section of the WWT.com platform. We have phenomenal resources surrounding F5 and its entire portfolio of strategic solutions and products. You can visit and demonstrate some of the products within our Advanced Technology Center, better known as ATC. And please feel free to reach out if you have any questions moving forward. And thanks again, and we'll see you next time.